Hey guys, it's Maymay and we're on to part 2 of our As Many As with this paper pack. And as you know from part 1, the first thing I created was a little birthday book to keep up with birthdays and addresses and things like that for the year. And this will actually carry on to other years because I didn't date it in any way. I wanted to show you because a lot of you had asked how I felt about adding the dividers on the inside. I went ahead and did that. And what I did to keep them from being super, super bulky is I used the 6x6 pad for this because the paper in the 6x6 is not as thick as what we get in the 12x12. So I thought I wouldn't get quite as much bulk, and I didn't because look, it's laying, even if I let go, it's not super, super bulky and it lays pretty flat. And I love that. So I did go through and every one of these got a little divider piece just for looks. They're just super cute and nothing is decorated on them or anything. I just wanted something in there to divide. Okay, so as you know, we have taken the paper and we are making 2 of these guys, okay? But what I want to do now is I want to show you what I would do with the paper next. Now, this challenge is different. Remember, I'm not trying to make as many as cards. I'm just trying to make as many as things as I can from this paper pack. So from this point, what I would do is kind of let the paper pack talk to me. So let's get into it. Also, in the last video, I asked you guys if you wanted to see my process, and overwhelmingly, you wanted to see the process. So that's why this video exists. Okay, it's to show you the process. So this is my cover page. This is what I'm working with. This is my 6x6 that I have left over from doing those covers. And you see, I used a good bit of it to do those covers with. And then this is my ephemera, also left over. These are scraps from cutting the page. Now, full disclosure, I have not done my second album yet, so I will be cutting some pages for that as well. But the reason that I haven't is I've been having camera issues, and so it distracted me from being able to work. So I will get to that second album too. All right, let me show you. So we know we have stickers and we know we have ephemera. And I also know that in this 6x6 album, let me find one of the pages, there are other cut aparts, right? So we have larger ones in here, smaller ones in here. So if I want to think about cards next, and because this is kind of where I'm leaning, let me show you what I do. I'm going to move my stickers aside. I'm not going to focus on them because they can just be bonus, right? I'm going to go through here and find my cut aparts. Remember this page I cut? I was so sad about that, but it is what it is. So I want to get all of my cut aparts out now. This particular paper pack has so many great cut aparts, which is one of the reasons I considered it for an as many as, because I like for the paper to do the work when I'm doing an as many as. What I don't want to do, as much as I love stamping, if I'm going to make 200 cards from one paper pack, I'm not real big on wanting to make 200 sentiments from one paper or for all those cards. So I like to lean into what the paper pack has already done for me. So let's do a little look. Because I cut this one up so willy-nilly, I'm not going to be able to use this section as far as the cut aparts are concerned. I can certainly use the cardstock on the back, but I do have these 3 guys. So what I want to do, I'm leaning into index cards. Y'all know that I'm all about them these days. So I've got a blank index card here. And what I'm going to do is I've got 4x4s. So I'm going to write 4x4. And I'm just going to look really quick and see what sizes I have to work with first. Okay. So I have 4x6, and it looks like I have 4x6 in portrait. And I also have 4x6 in landscape. And you cannot judge my handwriting. I am the messiest handwriter. It just is what it is. At the top up here, I've got these little 2x2s, which are super cute. So let's write that down. And then I'm going to flip to the next one and see what we've got here. I think I've got my page. There we go. Oh, I've got a border, so I can pay attention to that. But here I've got, this doesn't feel like a 4x6. I'm going to measure that. It feels a little chunky to me. That's because it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now that's new. I've never seen that in a cut apart before. Are these all 4 1/4 by 5 1/2? That's a little more there. What is this one? A little over 5 1/2, but are they 4 1/4? They're a little more than that. That's very interesting. So I've never seen that before, and this one caught my eye that it was a different size. So that means I've got, I want to check this one too. This one's over 4 1/4. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that we're going to call 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And the reason for that is because I know they're at least 5 1/2. Okay. So 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then this one looks like maybe 3 1/2 by 3 1/2. Let's look. Nope, 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then I've got these little sentiments. So I'm going to do 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. So I'm just giving myself, an idea of what we've got here. And then on this page, they're all 3 by 4s. That one feels big. Nope, 3 by 4s. So I have 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Y'all know I don't do math. So I have 8 that are 3 by 4. Now, I didn't put my quantities on here yet, so I'm going to go back and do that. But because I only found this page with 3 by 4, I can go ahead and put 8 because I know that's what I've got. The other thing that's important, that if you're working with a different paper pack, these are all portrait, okay? And what that means is portrait goes vertical and then landscape goes horizontal. So these are portrait. So I'm going to write on here that they are portrait. This will all matter in a few minutes, okay? And then let's go back and see how many of these sizes we have. So this one right here, this 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, I just found one, okay? This 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, we've got 4. This next page, you saw I ignored that border. We'll come back to that. That can be used anywhere. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 4 by 6s, but 3 of them are portrait and 2 of them are landscape. Then on this page, I ended up with 3 of my 4 by 4s, and we almost missed the 2 by 2s. We have 6 2 by 2s. Now, why is this important for me to know? I already know my color scheme. This is the color scheme we're working with. By knowing those cut aparts, when I go to look for inspiration, I know what I'm working with. Okay. So, like these 4 by 6s, I do have to cut them down to make them fit on a card. But typically, and we'll look at them, typically they give us enough room around them to do that. Like on this guy right here, this piece in the middle is 3 1/8 by 5. So I would have room to cut down to that image and then add a border for the front of a card and still make it an A2 card shape, if that makes sense. And the same here. All of these can be cut down to make them fit. And I'll show you how that works. Now, why is that important? Because you're going to have a favorite size, style of card you like to make. And what I like to do first is go through here and decide that. So for these guys, I'm going to do A2s. So I'm just going to make, these are going to be A2 cards. Okay. These 2 by 2s, there's a lot I can do with that. I think they'd be really cute to make a couple of mini slimlines with them. So I'm just going to write mini slimline. And here's the reason for that. I mean, I can always change my mind, but this lets me know I can take these little guys and probably get 2 cards out of that. I think that'll be cute. Now, this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. We know I'm going to do those A2. Okay. This 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 can be a really good focal point, and because of its size, I can make that work on an A2. But if I wanted to make a 4 by 4 card, because you can get envelopes for that, and you can make envelopes as well, and we're trying to use all our cardstock, so we could use that to make an envelope, and that'd be cute for a gift bag. I think I'll make this a 4 by 4. I feel like this might actually be a really good way to use up some scraps from the pack, so I'm going to make notes of that too. Okay. The 3 by 4s, there's 8 of those. This is where I'm going to get a lot of cards. Now, I want this to be a focal point, that 3 by 4, and I'm going to do it on an A2 card. They're my favorite size. Let's say you're a 5 by 7 card maker, or you like to make an A4, like a 4-bar size card. This is going to tell you what your focal point is. So when you go to look for inspiration, you know what you're looking for there. Okay. So there's my A2s. Up here, we've got 4 by 4s. You know what I think I'll do? I think I will try to mix that down here. I really like that square card for when I'm just, like today, for example, I needed a card to put into a package to mail out, and those unusual sizes work perfect for that. So I think I'm going to do this and make 4 by 4 cards out of them. I think that'll be fun, and it'll get me several of them. All right, so I know what sizes I'm looking for. I'm looking for A2s. I'm looking for mini slimlines. I'm looking for 4 by 4. Okay, so we've got these written down. Let's go into our 6 by 6. Now, typically, I would not worry about these guys. I would use these more for the backs of the page because I like the shapes and the patterns of them. But if we're going to make an as many as card situation with this, and at this point, we have, let me do the math right here to see what we're looking like. At this point, this is going to make 27 cards. That's pretty good, to get yourself started for the year. And if I need these cut aparts, I can use them. So these two right here, that's 3x4. Let's keep looking. These are 2x2. And look, they're coming sets of 3. So this is 3 mini slimlines right there. And then if I look over here, I've got 2 more 4x4s. So I think what I will do is calculate these in for card making. I think this will be really neat. And I'm going to keep flipping and see if there's more in here. I did use some of them earlier. And I'm just going to go ahead and add to our numbers everything that's in my 6x6 pack as well. And I won't make you watch that. I'll just edit these quantities to fit these cut aparts. Okay, so after doing the math and adding these guys, not only did I add to my 3x4s, but I also found some new cut aparts. So there's a few in there that are 2x3, landscape and portrait, and I'm going to create mini cards with those just because they're fun and you never know when I can use them. So our 3x4 cards moved from 8 to 16 using the 6x6 as well. So we're going to get lots of cards out of this. All right, now what we'll do is we're going to head out to the internet and look for inspiration. So let me get that pulled up and we'll get to it. All right, so I am now on my Pinterest page. This is the first place I like to go. There's other places, but I really like to go to Pinterest first. But I will tell you, I can get very distracted here because I'm already looking at this page and seeing 90 things I want to make, like this sweatshirt right here. Yes, please. I totally want to do that. However, to keep myself from getting too distracted, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to my little search bar and I'm going to go ahead and just type in one of those size cards. So I'm going to go A2, let's do DIY greeting cards. Let's just do that to kind of not nail things down, but shrink things in. How about that? Okay. So here's where we're at. Look at all of this. So now I like to start flipping through and looking for ideas. Now I want to talk to you about this because some people, are confused. No one gets upset about it, but some people are confused about inspiration and copying and things like that. So typically, now I'm speaking from a YouTube creator's point of view, okay? Typically, when you see projects on Pinterest like this, where like this person says, make a bunch of cards in just minutes, this person has put this out there for you to be inspired by it. They're not saying, look at what I've done. I'm selling this to make money. You know, that's not where we're at. This person is like, I want to show you how to make a bunch of cards and you can use this, okay? Now, if they were doing something to sell, maybe, and I'm not saying this is, but maybe this person's is greeting cards you can purchase and they're wanting to sell them. What you don't want to do is copy what they do and then sell it yourself. That is stealing someone's artwork, okay? Now, can you be inspired by this? There's so many things, and I don't want to touch it because it goes dark. You see this, but this is the picture we're using, okay? There's so many things that inspire us in this photograph. Number one, the background design. That's beautiful the way they did that. The color schemes, maybe the layout, the way they put the sentiment in the middle. I can be inspired in lots of different ways without copying their design, claiming it as my own, and trying to make money off of it, okay? Today, we're not making money. We're making cards. We're sending to our loved ones. We're not worried about that, okay? We're not out there trying to worry about copyright laws. We just want to be inspired. So here's what I like to do. This guy right here, I'm going to hover and they get dark and then I'm going to come off. Let me click on it and see if it'll be better. Here we go. I love this. Okay, this is such good inspiration. So this person's saying how I make and stack handmade cards quickly, okay? What I'm looking at is her photograph for inspiration. We happen to know that we have several of those cut aparts that are in this orientation. What a pretty way to lay this out. Where's the inspiration? I've got a rectangle here. I've got a border, and it's a wider border than I would normally use. And I love the sentiment in the bottom right-hand corner. So this is beautiful inspiration for me, okay? Now you have some options as you're looking for things to inspire you. You can make a Pinterest board for what you're doing. So for example, it's a little messy right now because the way they're doing some things here, but I could say save. Okay. It sent me to a wrong board. So what I want to do is go to that board and edit it to be what I want. So let me do that really quick. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to move this guy because it just can't be easy. So I'm going to create a board and I'm going to call it as many as, and maybe you want to name it with the paper pack's name. Hip, hip, hooray. Okay. And then I like to make my board secret, not for any reason except I just know what I'm looking at, and I'm not doing this to like tell other people this is what you need to do. Another reason for me is because my board is a business board and it's public. Anytime I'm sharing anything, I'm putting something on a board, people might think it's my project, and I don't want to mislead. So I make them private, and now I'm the only one seeing this board. Okay. So I've created it, and this is where we're going to be putting all of our items. So let me go back. I'm going to go back to my search. Now, I'll talk to you about this about Pinterest. Yes, I opened this page to look at this, okay? But when I open this page, whatever I searched here, Pinterest wants to give me more suggestions. So if I scroll underneath, I'm going to get more suggestions around what I clicked on. All right. So look, here's even more. I have to be honest, I think this is stunning because I'm a person who likes to let the paper do the work. And I think that is beautiful. And there's probably a lot of ways I could use this with some of the strips that are left over, some of the border pieces. And wouldn't it be cute to use my little 2x2 squares here? This might be an option for turning those 2x2s into A2 cards instead of mini slimlines. Do you see how I'm working? I'm not looking to recreate this card. I'm looking to go, oh, this is great inspiration for me to use what I've got. The other place that I'm thinking this might be really good in what we're doing, all that ephemera that I have would look really good like this, using up our scraps that we have left over and this. So all that says, I want to make sure I save this. So I'm going to come to this drop down and I'm going to choose my new board and I'm going to save that to my new board. Okay. Now I can arrow back or I can see what other inspirations under this post. And there's so much. Oh, this is a cute one too. This is how I do this, right? What I like about this, look at all these little squares of scrap and look at this space for focal point. This is a great one because I know I have those 2x3s and those 4x4s and those 3x4s. Isn't that great? So again, I just throw these things into my Pinterest board that I've created so I can come back and decide what I want to do. So this is one place I get inspiration. That's really good. I want to mention this one in particular too. The reason is, do you remember I told you that I was kind of ignoring some of those sentiment strips that are in this pack? I didn't include them in my count. This is a good one to save for that because that sentiment strip would fit right here. And what a great way to use up any scraps I have laying around. So let's just scroll through and see if there's any more we want to pin. Now, while I'm scrolling, I want to talk about this. I'm not looking for intricate pop-up, flip, shaker, uh, you know, open door, anything interactive. I'm not looking for that here. But here's why. I have a lot of cards to make. I've set my goal to make as many as. So I'm not looking to spend 2 months making these cards and cutting intricate little pieces and putting in shaker things and things like that. I'm looking to get a lot of cards to use this year. So you'll notice I look at simpler items. I adore this. I love this layout, the way this black is here. I'm going to save this. I don't know if it would work perfectly with my cut aparts, but if there's scraps left over, that's really cool. So I want to make sure I have that one. And then I'm just going to run through and keep going. Just keep adding to my page. I also want to talk about one more thing as I'm scrolling. You might be thinking, wow, you're not choosing this one and you're not choosing this one. The reason I'm not is because I literally just made a card very similar to this one. And I also made a card very similar to these. And I'm like, I don't want to make those again. I've done something like this recently and I don't want to repeat those. Now I haven't done this recently. This is really cool. Let me click on this. What I really love about this is it's a great way to showcase cut aparts and ephemera and things like that. Because you see how they turned this into a flap? This is beautiful. And this card has a flap to the left and a flap to the right. This would be a great inspiration piece. So let's save that one. And I'm going to look underneath them. Keep going. Another thing I'd like to talk about. Do you see this card here? I'm going to click on this one. So while you're designing or while you're looking through, you might think, you know what? I have a die that does all of these shapes. I have a nested hexagon die. And if I end up with a lot of tiny scraps, wouldn't this be a great place to utilize tiny scraps to make more cards and then add a piece of ephemera here? So this is one I would save because I know I have a tool that would make this very easy. That's another thing I want you to think about as you're flipping through. What tools or dies or things that you love to work with do you have that you want to incorporate? Maybe you're a person who loves foil and you have something to do, a die cut foil piece that you'd like to add, so you can think like that. Maybe you have a brand new balloon punch or something that you want to incorporate. So look for things that work with what you have as well. All right, so that's Pinterest. Are there other places you can look? There sure are. You can just Google. Let's do Google. So I'm sure you know, but Google is a search engine, and you can do exactly what we just did. A2 DIY greeting cards. And you can search and you can get all these images. And what I like to do is ignore this because this is shopping. People are wanting me to shop. Okay. I like to go to the top left hand of the page and click images. And to me, this works a lot like Pinterest. It also, just like Pinterest can send us to a video or a tutorial or something like that, this also can show us images that just give us idea, but then give us a tutorial. For example, this is me, by the way. That's one of my cards from back in the day. But if I liked it and I wanted to do it, I could click on it. And unless somebody's using it in their own videos, it would take me to my video for it. Let's see where it takes us. We'll play. I didn't even know this was a thing. This is cool. Okay, cool. So it takes you to a very old Maymay video. I will turn this volume down to a very old Maymay video. And if you wanted to learn how to make it, that makes things even easier. Isn't that cool? So that's another reason I like to use Google. Not that I can't do that from Pinterest, but it does kind of the same thing. The only difference here is I cannot save them to my Pinterest board directly. Yes, you can click on it and then work through the process and do it. So I'm going to show you what I like to do. Let's say, let me find one I think would be really, really good. Look, that's me too. That's kind of cool. I guess my search engine knows what I search a lot, me. All right, let's say this is one I really like and I'd like to be inspired by for this project. If you're on a Mac computer, on your keypad, you can hit Command Shift and the number 4, and you're going to get this little crosshair. Can you see my little crosshair right here? Actually, it's not showing up on the screen. So unfortunately for you, I'm looking at my screen and it's not recording my little crosshair, but I can sit that in the top left corner of this image and I can screenshot it just like this. And now what happens is this screenshot image is put into or onto my desktop. Okay. So I have it as a reminder. So that's another thing I like to do. I like to go, you know what? I can make a little folder and I can throw all these pictures into it. And like, for example, this is not inspiring me today, but it's super cute. I'll take a screenshot of it. So I know you can't see me doing it, but I'm taking a little screenshot and that throws it onto my desktop. And that gives me more inspiration I can go back and look for. So it's two places. That's Google and that's also Pinterest. I love this one. Let's get that one. And if you can't tell by the way I'm doing it, it is the cards with the candles. Okay, let's look at more inspiration. Okay, you guys, let's say you have a Cricut or an electronic cutting machine. You can get inspiration from here as well. Okay, so I have opened Cricut Design Space, and you see it says, "Hi, Maymay, what do you want to make?" I want to make an A2 greeting card. And then I'm going to hit enter. And now what's going to happen is it's going to act a lot like Pinterest. If I wanted to use my cutting machine to help me with this process, look at all of the inspiration that I could get here. And not only inspiration, but also cut files. So check this one out. This is called You Are Loved Greeting Card. Let's click it. It opens up. It's shared by this sweet lady here. It gives you an like the description of what the card is, okay? And then it even shows you what images that she's used, what fonts, things like that. And you could edit this guy and make it work for you, or you could make this guy, okay? I'm gonna click make it. And when you do that, what it's gonna do is it's gonna show you the pieces, the cuts that you have to use to make this card, okay? So let's say you wanted to, now she print and cut this, but let's say you wanted to cut this, okay? You could lay your designer paper here and have your machine cut these images for you. And then you could also print and cut whatever sentiment they're using here, and you could mix this together, okay? I'm going to come out of here. That one's a print and then cut, and I probably should have paid attention to that over here. I did not pay attention. Let's see. Yeah, white cardstock for printing the pattern, etc. But you don't have to print it. You can just cut it. Now, let me say this to you. I am a person who will never open my Cricut to cut rectangles. Like you see, these are all little rectangles stacked. I'm going to do that with my trimmer because I'm much quicker with that. But I just wanted to use a simple example. Let's look at another example. So let's flip through. We know what cut aparts we're working with. We know what we're trying to create out of them. So you can flip through and look at these cards for all this inspiration. Here's a cute one. See this little Valentine's Day one? Maybe you want to use some of your decorator paper here and then use some of your cut aparts like this. Or maybe you want to cut these flowers out and use paper and one of your sentiments over here. It's just to get you inspiration from wherever you have access to projects, if that makes sense. Let's go back home where our search was because I got out of my search. Here's a great one that we could use with our cut aparts. Oh, this is a good idea. This would be really good for what we're working with our paper pack to do these kind of aperture cards. But you can see how taking the time to look at your paper to get to do an inventory of what you've got to work with, then going and looking for your inspiration keeps you from getting so distracted. For example, I love this card, but it doesn't really go with what I'm doing unless I'm only working with the ephemera pack. And that would work, but I'm looking right now for cut apart things. So I can scroll right past that and go right over here where these things seem to fit better. Does that make sense? So that inventory really matters. All right, so Cricut is another place you can be inspired. Okay, shameless plug. Another place for inspiration is my own website, MaymayMadeIt.com. I have to show you this because I think it's insane. First, look at this. Isn't this beautiful? This is the paper pack we're working with right now. If you want to pick that up, you can click here and do that. But you see this beautiful thing that says Customer Gallery right here on the left-hand side of the screen. Watch this. This area of our website is beautiful inspiration from Made It's just like you. These are projects that our Made It's have made and posted for years and years and years. You can literally get so much inspiration using this section. What I really love about this, even more so than using it for your as many as cards, let's say you picked up one of our latest stamp sets called Delivery Dear. This is a card using that, and look how pretty this is. Victoria made this. Look how gorgeous that card is. And the best part is she's showing you how to use one of our stamp sets. So if you're wanting inspiration for products and things you've purchased from me, this is the place to find it. However, it is also the place to get inspiration. And I saw something a minute ago I thought was really, really good. Do you see this here? Let's see who made this. This is from Paula McAllister. And she did these thank you cards. And look how beautiful these are laid out. And they're perfect for what we're looking for right now to use as inspiration for our as many as. So what I would do here is I would screenshot this just like I was showing you a while ago, and I would let this get added to my desktop, and then I'll throw those all into a folder for later for inspiration. And then you can click through just to get all this inspiration. And can I just tell you, there are, I want to say upon last count, there were over 8,000 posts. I do wish you could treat this more like Pinterest where we could pin them and save them, things like that. It just doesn't have that capability. It's just a great way for you to go through and get inspiration. But by screenshotting those images and saving them to your desktop, you can just keep them while you're making the project and then delete those photos later. You won't need them forever. But look at this. It goes on and on forever and ever. And you just keep loading more. You will not be sad that you came here to see this. So that is a third place for you to get ideas right here at the customer gallery. You also could come into our free files and look at our SVGs and PDFs and see if you can see some inspiration there, just depending on the kind of card you're looking to make. Okay, so that's three main places I like to get some inspiration outside of YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, things like that. You're always getting inspiration there. But I wanted to show you these places you could go through pretty specifically when you're sitting down to make the card. So now what I've done, which I normally wouldn't do, is I printed these pictures out. These were just what we looked at on Pinterest and all the places. I wouldn't normally print them, but the reason I wouldn't is because I would just use them on my computer screen to do this designing part, but I need you guys to be able to see them, so this is easier. Okay, so here's what we just looked at. They're going to be familiar, right? What I'm going to do is pick the one I want to work with. You know, what's the design? That one's upside down, but what's the design I want to start with? And you could do this in so many different ways. You could look at your index card and just start at the top. I kind of like to start with the one that makes the most sense in my head first. I really love this one. I'm going to put that one aside for just a second. Oop, I printed that one twice, so don't need that one. I also really love this. I think this is a really cool way to use both cut aparts and ephemera, so I'm going to put that one aside. And I'm saving that one for later because remember, I have that hexagon die I might can use. So I'm not going to take you through the planning for every single one of these. I'm going to take you through the planning for some of them, okay? So I really like this card. I really think this is cool. It's different. I haven't done one like this in a while, and I think it'll be fun to do today. And it also will give me a lot of opportunity to make edits. Also, I want to make sure I tell you this. All of these images, all of these Pinterest pins, anything I have used today, we're going to put in the description below because I want to give credit to the people who've done the work. They're incredible. Okay. So all their links will be below. Go check out their websites. They may even have all of this worked out for you already number wise, but I'm going to show you how I do it for me. Okay. All right. So I'm going to focus on this flap. I want to start right here. And I have a lot of the 3x4s. Remember, I have 16 of those. And I think this would be a cool way to use them. So a 3x4 flap would live right here. And then this card base underneath needs to be designed. So here's what I do. I'm going to take out another one of my index cards. Now, why am I using index cards? You know, I showed y'all my little book that I made. So I made this little book to hold my album page ideas, which they work just like what I'm doing right here, okay? I designed them, I have them, and I put them into this little book. I'm going to make myself one for this year for greeting cards so I can keep that as well, okay? So I'm going to do it on my little index card so I can make a book for them too. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to title this, and I think I'm going to call this 4x3 flip. Now, I call it 4x3 flip because it goes tall. This little shape is going to be 4x3, not 3x4, if that makes sense. So in my head, it's a 4x3 flip A2 card. Okay. And over here, I'll just do a quick little sketch. And so I'll have a flap, and then I'll have a piece that comes over like so. So basically, I need to design this. All right. This piece in the back is different. You see how that yellow piece is here and it ends here? So that means this base is not a full A2 card base. So I'm going to see what size this needs to be. I know my piece here is 3 inches wide. And when I add the border around it of this cardstock, I'm going to be adding a 1/4 of an inch because I'll add 1/8 of an inch here and 1/8 of an inch here and 1/8 at the top and 1/8 at the bottom. So this piece here is going to be 3 1/4. We're not talking about this little extra piece, just this piece across. So this will be 3 1/4. So I'm going to write, I'll put it right here, 3 1/4 wide, and it's going to be 4 1/4 tall. Now, why is that? Okay. If this piece is 3 inches and I cut a piece to go underneath it, that's 3 1/4, I'm going to get that little matte edge where it hangs over. Okay. So that's what we're talking about. All right. So there's my first little piece. I know that, but there's a trick. This is a flap. Okay. So I don't know how they did it because I didn't go look at their site, but I'm going to make this with a little binding strip. So that means I want to add 1/2 of an inch to this side. Now, some people do 1/4 of an inch binding strip, but you know me, I'm a 1/2 inch girl. So I'm going to add 1/2 of an inch right here, which means this piece is going to go from 3 1/4 to 3 3/4, and it will be scored at 1/2 an inch. Now, this is how I make notes. You probably make them 1,000 different ways or whatever way works for you. You do you, okay? So now that I know that this is 3 1/4 across after we fold that binder strip down, I know how much overlap I will have here, okay? Because I know this card base is normally 8.5 by 5.5 tall, I'm going to take 1.5 inches off of my 8.5 measure. So that means this piece is going to be 7 inches. Now, this could be wrong because I'm doing this in my head, and you might want to do this in pencil, but this is where I do a test, okay? So I'm going to go to my scraps. So this is 2 scraps, and let me show you what caused this a scrap. This piece fell on the floor, and I rolled over it with my chair, so it ended up in my tester scrap bin. Okay, my like this one's messed up. I'm not going to use this as a card bin, so I can use it for this sort of thing. And this piece is an offcut. By the way, this is what I saved these for. There's a score mark right here. You can see that that's one I cut away from another project, so it's also a scrap piece I can use. Okay, so this means I'm going to score this guy. This is going to be my card base. I'm going to score him at 4 1/4 because that's a normal base. Okay, so it's 5.5 tall by 7 wide. I scored it at 4 1/4, and you can see I've got that overlap. That's what we've been working with. So that's looking good so far. Okay. So this piece is 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch in or 3 1/4. So we're just going to score it right here. And this gets me my little folding flap. If I can pick it up, my little folding flap there. Okay. So let's bring this over. Let's go ahead and fold and crease this. So let's just see roughly how this looks. So this guy is going to live in 1/8 of an inch, floating top and bottom, and my cut apart can live here. Isn't that cool? So I'm going to open this up. I'll show you exactly what I do. Like, y'all going to be like, Maymay, you are too much, girl. But this is what I do. I take my yellow tape when I'm making these samples, and I will literally tape this all together. Now, this one in particular is scrap paper that I'm not going to use, but let's say I was making it from paper I didn't want to be scrap, like I actually wanted to use what I was doing. I would just take this and I will tape it into place roughly. This is especially how I do folios. Now what I can do is I can see if this is going to work. So this is going to open like this, and this will open like this, and we're all good. Now you can see there's another piece that has to live here because it needs to hide our working, but that's the basic base of our card. So now we know. So we'll come back over here and we can make those notes. So we know this is right, 7 by 5.5, and we're going to score it at 4 1/4. And I will write score 4 1/4. Okay. This piece, draw it out as well. 3 3/4, score at 1/2 by 4 1/4. That's how we're going to do that piece. Now, the piece I need on the inside is our regular size. We need a 4 by 5 1/4 rectangle for inside. Then we can talk about our mats that we need. I'm going to let this piece map my cut apart instead of layering other pieces. It's just going to be cut apart and this piece. But here, I want to use some pretty paper, right? Some pretty cardstock. So my decorator cardstock is going to need to be 2.5 by 5 1/4. Okay, so I'll go right here and I'll write decorator 2.5 by 5 1/4. Now, I would probably go with these notes because I know what this says to me. But if you wanted to go back and make this neater, maybe start with a scrap piece of making your notes and then neaten it up for your book if you're going to make one of those little books to go back and forth to. So guys, we just designed the card base that we're going to use to create, let's go to our little sheet right here, okay, to create 16 3 by 4 cut apart cards. All right. That's how I do this. And it may seem like a lot. It may not seem like enough, depending on how organized you are. Like Shannon is much more organized than me, and she would probably, I don't know, she'd be okay with this. Just a lot of notes I made today. She'd be okay with how I did this for you guys. But you might be more organized or do this in a different way than I do. But this is how I do it. So what I will do now, I have designed what I need for these 16. I like to use little dots to let me know when I'm done. Now I'll just go through and design what I need for all of the cards before I start making all my cuts. You don't have to do this before you make all your cuts. We could right now go make these cards and put those aside and then head to our next cards. Ever how you want to do that. But I do know I have these cut aparts I want to work with. I will also tell you that because of how many cut aparts I have and because of how I'm designing my cards, I may find that I need more cardstock. So for example, I don't have to only use the cardstock from this pack, although I've set myself a goal to use as much as I can. I can use a companion pack that matches and mix it in. So you may find you have more cards to make than you have enough paper in your pack, that's no big deal because this is as many as, and that's what we're trying to do, as many as, and use up our scraps. All right, I know we did not make any cards today, but I think we went through a lot. I think this might be helpful for you in the future when you're designing. What I will do is go ahead and get these designed before our next video together. I'll get all these designed, and I'll probably go ahead and make all the cuts so we can just assemble, because as many as videos can get pretty long. So I'll go ahead and make the cuts. We'll assemble together, and we can go ahead and get a lot of cards made in our next video. And then we'll see where we're at. We'll see what scraps we have left. We'll see how much cardstock we have left and see what we can do with what's left over. All right, you guys, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. I'm having a really good time taking you guys along with me on the process, and I hope you're learning a lot. If you are, give this video a big O Vinny. That's a thumbs up. Click that button. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss my future videos. And until next time, bye now.